Welcome to another Under the Night Sky. My name is Robin. Tonight we're going to explore the constellations of Canis Major, the big dog, and Canis Minor, the little dog. I'll talk about how to find Canis Major and Canis Minor, some of the interesting stars and deep sky objects located in these constellations, and some of the myths associated with these dogs. By late March, the sun is setting around 7:45. About an hour later, around 8:45, the constellation Canis Major is high enough and the sky dark enough that you can see it rising above the southern horizon. The constellation Canis Minor lies above it. Canis Major is Latin for the greater dog, or as we call him, the big dog. And Canis Minor is Latin for the lesser dog, or the little dog. To find Canis Major, we'll use Orion's belt. Draw a line down through Orion's belt stars and it points to Sirius and Canis Major, the brightest star in the night sky. Once you find Sirius, you should be able to see the stars that make up the head, body, legs, and tail of the big dog. This is one of the few constellations that actually looks like what it's called. To find Canis Minor, go back to Orion, and this time draw a line from Betelgeuse east to the bright star Procyon. The constellation is made up of only 2 stars and is one of the many constellations that doesn't look anything like what it's called. Sirius, Procyon, and Betelgeuse form the winter triangle asterism. An asterism is a star pattern that is not recognized as one of the official 88 constellations, but is a recognizable pattern in the sky. Let's take a closer look at Sirius. This is a ground-based photo of Sirius. As I said earlier, it's the brightest star in the sky. Sirius comes from a Greek word meaning searing or scorching, and it's twice as bright as the next brightest star, Canopus, in the southern hemisphere constellation Carina. It's commonly called the dog star, reflecting its prominence in Canis Major. The heliacal rising of Sirius, or the dawn rising of the star, marked the flooding of the Nile in ancient Egypt, and the dog days of summer for the ancient Greeks. To the Polynesians, who live mostly in the southern hemisphere, the star marked winter and was an important reference star for their navigation around the Pacific Ocean. A bluish star, Sirius lies 8.6 light years distant, making it Earth's 5th closest neighbor. A light year is the distance light travels in 1 year, about 63 trillion miles. Sirius is moving toward our solar system and is expected to become slightly brighter over the next 60,000 years. After that, it will be moving away from us, growing fainter as the millennia pass. It's expected to be the brightest star in our night sky for the next 210,000 years, give or take. Sirius looks like a single star to our naked eye, but it's actually a binary star. The star we see is called Sirius A, and its companion, a faint white dwarf star, is called Sirius B. In this photo, the arrow is pointing to Sirius B. Sirius A is estimated to be 242 million years old, and Sirius B appears to be a bit younger, having an estimated age of 228 million years. The two may have formed out of the same interstellar cloud of gas and dust. At one time, both stars were blue, but Sirius B was more massive than Sirius A. The more massive a star is, the faster it burns through its fuel. Over time, Sirius B became a red giant star and eventually, about 120 million years ago, shed its outer layers of gas, leaving the white dwarf star we see today. The distance between these two stars varies between 8 and 31.5 astronomical units as they orbit each other every 50 years. An astronomical unit is equal to 93 million miles, the distance between the Sun and Earth. Sirius B is more than 100,000 times fainter than Sirius A, and it was the first white dwarf star ever discovered. Sirius A was the first star to have its velocity measured. It rotates at a speed of 9.9 miles per second. This is a comparison of Sirius A and our Sun, both in scale and relative surface brightness. Sirius A is a little more than twice as big as our Sun. It's 25% brighter than the Sun and much hotter than the Sun. The temperature on Sirius A is over 17,400 degrees Fahrenheit, and our Sun is about 9,900 degrees Fahrenheit. This is a comparison of Sirius B to Earth. Sirius B is slightly more massive than our Sun, packed into a volume roughly equal to Earth. Its current surface temperature is almost 45,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Because there is no longer an internal heat source, Sirius B will cool as the remaining heat is radiated into space over the next 2 billion years. Eventually, it will reach its evolutionary end, becoming a black dwarf star, a star that emits no discernible light. Now let's look at Procyon and Canis Minor. This is a ground-based photo of Procyon. Procyon is the 8th brightest star in the night sky and the brightest star in Canis Minor. The name Procyon is Greek in origin and means before the dog. It was given this name because it rises before Sirius, the dog star. It's also called the little dog star. Procyon is about 11.5 light years away, making it another one of Earth's nearest neighbors. Just like Sirius, Procyon appears to be a single star to the naked eye, but it's actually another binary star. Procyon A, the white star we see, has a faint white dwarf companion, Procyon B. Procyon B's existence was inferred from astrometric data years before it was visually confirmed in 1896 using the Lick Observatory's 36-inch refractor. About every 40 years, the two complete one orbit of each other. Procyon A is estimated to be about 2 billion years old. It's bright for its spectral class, suggesting that it's a subgiant star that has nearly fused its core hydrogen into helium. It will be swelling into a red or orange giant star 80 to 150 times its current diameter within the next 10 to 100 million years. Currently, it's about 1.5 times as big as our Sun, about 7 times brighter than the Sun, and has a surface temperature of over 11,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Procyon B is a bit younger at just over 1 billion years old. Just like Sirius B, Procyon B was more massive than its A star. It's estimated that Procyon B lived 400 to 600 million years before it began transitioning into a red giant star, and then around 1 billion years ago, it became a white dwarf star. Procyon B is considerably less massive than Sirius B, and for reasons not yet understood, its mass is unusually low for a white dwarf star of its type. With a surface temperature of a little over 13,000 degrees Fahrenheit, it's also cooler than Sirius B. Here's a fun fact. Procyon is also the genus designation of raccoons. In 1780, Gottlieb Storp placed the raccoon in its own genus, Procyon. It was once thought that the raccoon was related to many different species, including dogs. He may have thought the meaning of Procyon before the dog was appropriate for the raccoon. Let's move on to some deep sky objects, starting in Canis Minor. Canis Minor contains a number of deep sky objects. All are very faint and can be seen only with larger telescopes. The brightest of these is NGC 2485, a face-on spiral galaxy. Notice the arms. This galaxy spins counterclockwise. It's estimated to be between 195 to 212 million light years away. On the right of NGC 2485, there is a blue object. It's another spiral galaxy, located over 472 million light years away. Its arms are blue because they contain hot, blue young stars. There's one more object I'd like to show you in Canis Minor. Able 24, a faint planetary nebula. Nebulae such as this are created when a sun-like star dies and throws its outer layers into space. Sun-like stars spend most of their life converting hydrogen into helium in their core. Eventually, after billions of years, the stars run out of fuel and become unbalanced. They can no longer resist the inward crush of gravity, and the core begins to collapse. The temperature in the core rises dramatically while the cooler outer layers expand, causing the entire star to bloat into a red giant. Strong winds then push the gaseous outer layers of the star, forming a shell of gas that spreads out into space. At the center of this image, we see all that's left of the parent star, a white dwarf star. This nebula is located 1,730 light-years from Earth and glows red due to its ionized hydrogen gas. The structures within its round shape make it look like a rose. Now let's look at a couple of deep sky objects in Canis Major. Here we have NGC 2359, Thor's Helmet Nebula. The helmet-shaped nebula is around 15,000 light-years away and is over 30 light-years across. The helmet is a cosmic bubble, blown as the wind from the bright massive star near the bubble's center sweeps through the surrounding molecular cloud. This is a Wolf-Rayet bubble, a type of bubble that surrounds Wolf-Rayet stars. These incredibly hot stars are relatively rare in the universe and have an unusual spectrum. Wolf-Rayet stars appear to have a high surface enhancement of heavy elements, are low in hydrogen, and have strong stellar winds. The central star of this nebula is an extremely hot giant, thought to be in a brief, pre-supernova stage of evolution. It's expected to explode in a spectacular nova sometime within the next few thousand years. Last, we'll look at NGC 2207 and IC 2163, two spiral galaxies passing each other like two ships in the night. This is a near collision between NGC 2207, the larger and more massive galaxy on the left, and IC 2163, the smaller galaxy on the right. Strong tidal forces from NGC 2207 are distorting the shape of IC 2163, flinging out stars and gas into long streamers stretching out 100,000 light-years, as seen on the right side of the image. Now let's look at some of the mythology for our big and little dogs. This is from Maya mythology. The stars of Canis Major are part of the constellation showing the maize god being carried by a couple of paddler gods in a canoe to the place of creation, the three hearthstones or primordial fire, where the maize god would be self-sacrificed for the creation of the cosmos to take place. The hearthstones or primordial fire asterism is made from the stars Alnitak, Saiph, and Rigel in our constellation Orion. We can't see the entire canoe from the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, the constellation is high in the sky. In Romanian mythology, Canis Major is the mastiff, the dog that guards the sheep and goats. This story is from Dakota Lakota mythology. The large circular constellation racetrack is the sacred hoop and is referred to as the womb. We know it as the winter circle asterism. It's called a womb because the buffalo embryo constellation is within it. The buffalo embryo is made up of parts of the constellations Orion and Canis Major and the Pleiades open star cluster. The Pleiades is the head, the backbone is Orion's belt stars, the ribs are formed by connecting the backbone to the star Betelgeuse and the star Rigel, and Sirius is the tail. Notice the Milky Way, called the Road of the Spirits or Ghost Trail. The Milky Way runs through the center of the womb. I made the Milky Way darker in this image to make it more noticeable. The buffalo embryo emerges from the womb constellation. The teaching is that the spirit comes from the star world through the Road of Spirits and then emerges from the womb going to the fireplace or fire constellation in Leo. After the purification ceremony at the fireplace, the spirit meets with Blue Woman, also called Birth Woman, at the doorway between above and below at the scoop of the Big Dipper. In Greek mythology, Canis Major and Canis Minor were the faithful hunting dogs of Orion. Canis Major, always following at the heel of his master, seems to be chasing Leelaps the hare. In another story, Canis Major is Leelaps, a dog so fast that he always caught his prey. One story is there was a vicious fox destroying the countryside. The fox was so incredibly fast that no one could or ever would catch it. Leelaps was brought in. The inescapable dog took after the uncatchable fox. They moved so fast that those watching couldn't move their eyes fast enough to follow the chase. At one moment, the dog would seem to have its prey within its grasp, but the fox would always escape. This went on and on and on, until finally Zeus turned both of them to stone. He placed the dog in the sky as Canis Major without the fox. Thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed exploring Canis Major, the big dog, and Canis Minor, the little dog, with me. Join me in May when we explore the constellation Virgo, the Virgin.